agenda tonight, so I will turn it over to Miles to go over the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Tonight you have 3 items on the consent agenda. Item B1 is the acceptance of the North Carolina Amateur Sports $10,000 sports equipment grant for the Parks and Rec Department. This is a non-matching grant, and it is to provide the startup equipment for flag football. Item B2 is the selection of on-call right-of-way acquisition firms. Staff issued a RFQ in March with qualifications due in April. We had 5 responses. You had Telex, Colliers Engineering and Design, THC Incorporated, Bowman Realty Consultants LLC, and OR Colon Associates LLC. They all have a local office in the Charlotte metro area. They're all qualified to serve the city of Belmont, so Public Works is requesting that all 5 of these be moved forward and move into a master services agreement with the city. Really, this is for temporary construction and permanent easement acquisitions for the Morgan's Branch Force Main and pump station improvement. But if we have any other acquisitions needed, we'll use these firms to get quotes. B3 is the recommendation of consultant for land development code update, the $50. Based on state statutes, local governments are set forth zoning regulations in accordance with adopted comprehensive plans. And of course, you all adopted the comprehensive land use plan in September 2025. So this process moved forward to hire a consultant to rewrite our land development code. The planning department put out an RFP, and we had 5 firms to respond, those being Freeze and Nichols, DPZ, Bordeaux, Opticos, and Inspire Placemaking. They shortlisted 3 of those firms and moved forward with Freeze and Nichols as the firm that they would like to contract with. And so the next steps in the process is a contract execution that they're working on right now, a contract. I do want to note that the full amount, that $173,450, will not be expended in this fiscal year, given that we're already in close to the end of April. And so the amount that's not expended in this fiscal year, we plan to move into the unassigned fund balance and then place that amount inside the budget coming up. And those are the 3 items, so I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Just a point.
Yes.
Did we, I know we don't often have a consent agenda in the workshop. Did we actually make a motion to set the agenda?
We haven't yet, so does that not happen after the consent after Miles goes over the consent agenda?
Okay.
Okay. Now, are there any questions on any of the items in the consent agenda?
I had one question on the LDC update. I saw there was a section in there about updating our code to reflect the changes in the law related to the downzoning issue. It's my understanding that's still a live issue in Raleigh, and that may or may not change. So what I don't want to have happen is we change our code to reflect what the law is today, and then they go and change the law again, and then we have to go back and rewrite it. You see where I'm going with that? I don't know if it's possible to stage, or what we need to do within that process to account for that uncertainty.
Yes, and I don't know really either what we need to do. I don't know if Tiffany has an answer for that, but I know the process is going to take probably 12 to 18 months to get through the rewrite of the code. So if there's any changes at that time, it may be appropriate, but we'll let Tiffany answer that question.
As I understand it, they track of these types of things and monitoring. So I'd assume that they monitor the developments while they're working on the code. And
they will. So one of the reasons we wanted to intentionally ask for the selected consultant to have a North Carolina licensed attorney as part of the team is to make sure that not only are we keeping track of any updates legislatively to that, but that any drafted code would be fully reviewed by that attorney as a part of the team, and then certainly by counsel and our own attorney as well to vet that. But codes are always very detail oriented. We do want to make sure that we're writing it in line with the codes and that we can recommend adoption based on what's in place at the date of adoption. We are fully aware that there might be some things that we are withheld from doing based on the current state laws in place. And so what we're also going to ask the recommends that are not currently possible based on the state statutes, that those are noted so that in the event that legislation does change, we can have that short list and know where to go to revise our codes as needed to further carry out the vision.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that item or any of the other items on the consent agenda? All right, if there are no other questions, I'll take a motion to set the agenda.
Motion to set the agenda.
Motion by Jason,
Second.
seconded by Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with the agenda set, I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Alex,
Second.
seconded by Charlie. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. All right, so that will take us into agenda item C1, and the fiscal year 2026-27 budget presentation and discussion, and I will turn it over to Miles.
Thank you, Mayor. And we'll have Jared Piles. He'll be presenting the budget highlights, and we also have Chazo with First Trine Advisors in attendance so that we can work through the model if that is needed towards the end. I want to thank all of the department heads and staff that helped prepare their budgets. All the items came in, and me and Jared and Kevin kind of worked through all the line items and then met with the department heads, and it turned out to be a good process. And so what you'll see tonight is really like a high-level overview, and then we'll turn it over to you all to go through and ask any questions that's needed per the line items. And also, if there's any specific questions, I've asked department heads to come to the mic and answer those questions as well. So I'll turn it over to Jared at this time.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll jump right in if I can figure out how to use this thing. All right. So general fund budget highlights. Total budget of $29.6 million, based on the current tax rate of 45.5 cents. No increase there. This budget includes a 2% cost of living adjustment and up to 3% merit for all full-time employees. Approximately $1.2 million dedicated to fund the general fund CIP. Proposed fee increase to solid waste from $9.74 to $11.25. Our benchmark for that is trying to subsidize half of the contract with Waste Pro, which we're still negotiating, so that fee is subject to change. But that's what is included in the budget currently. Health insurance increases of $358,000. That is also subject to change based on conversations that we've had with the hub and that dual stream approach of doing self-funded and a renewal. And this budget also funds $1,000. That includes salaries and employee benefits associated with that. And there are no new positions included in the general fund budget. Here is a snapshot of the percent of the budget by department. Roughly 45% is public safety, 18% streets, 7% administration, 8% debt service, 9% capital, and then varying percentages for the remaining departments. This is a change over prior year expenses, so you'll see the change as a percentage of the budget for each associated department.
Was that the adopted or amended?
That's adopted, over adopted. This is a snapshot of the three different categories between personnel, operations, and capital by percentage for each department. So you'll see varying operations expenses. You'll see streets is more heavily operating, whereas planning, zoning, police, fire, recreation is more personnel heavy, and there is a little. The general fund capital improvement plan is funded at $2.5 million. That includes street resurfacing and the CIP projects that we discussed in the February workshop. And those items include City Hall renovations, Ford Center renovations, Project Tundra, land purchase for 2 fire stations, 2 fire engines, the street resurfacing, IT upgrades, savings for I-85 betterments, police patrol vehicle equipment, police storage building, and police radios. Any questions on general fund before we move into water sewer? Okay. The water sewer is presented at a balanced budget of $13.3 million. That includes an 8% fee rate increase across the board between water, sewer, the service $2.3 million in capital projects. Similar to the general fund, here is a breakdown of water sewer funds, departments between personnel operations and capital. This is a snapshot of the change by department over prior year of the adopted for each water sewer fund department. And this is a snapshot of our overall picture of revenue to expenses. As you can see in fiscal year 23-24, prior to adoption of our rate study, we had to use a little bit of fund balance to balance our budget, and we implemented the rate study in fiscal year 24-25 so that we would not be operating at a loss or having to dip into our coffers to balance our budget. 24-25 is our audited numbers. 25-26 is where we project to land this year. And then 26-27, you'll see that's balance, revenues matching expenditures.
I guess high level,
Mhm.
Jared, we can go into the details, but just from an executive summary, what's driving the massive increase in expense? For the enterprise fund, we had made the comment, or to the general effect that maybe it might look to rate reduction, potentially we overshot. So what's driving the expenses there?
I wouldn't say a rate reduction. It could have possibly been a lower increase. Remember back when we adopted the rate study, it was projected 8% across the board for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Last year we needed a 10.5% bump for this current year to meet our expectations. I will say that on the revenue side, my billing team has done a tremendous job of combing through our billing registers, ensuring everyone is being charged the appropriate rate codes, tracking inactive consumption, so users that were using water without an active account. We've really honed in on that and making sure that we're capturing all of our revenue sources. As far as the expenditure side, I can go back to the this slide here, where you're looking at personnel. Personnel is approximately 50% across the board on most of our departments, and then operating expenditures. We have not spent a lot on capital, but the rate study emphasis is on funding future capital. Rate increases are increasing our fund balance to be able to afford PAYGO projects as well as be able to afford debt service on projects that are going to be coming down the pipe.
And then additionally, remind me the timeline on the Stowe facility. When are we anticipating connection and all of that for a wastewater treatment perspective?
I would defer to
I
Miles
think
or Jonathan
I
on
think
that.
Jonathan said, when we turn the valve, it'd be 2030,
2030?
2030. I think they're at 60% design right now, and so that means they'd have to complete design and then completely construct the project, so 2030,
And then
we'd be their customer.
does the proposed capital, does that include anything at the treatment facility, or are we just trying to get by until 2030?
Future, like Band-Aid, I think, approaches until we turn over to Charlotte Water.
Yeah, one of the line items is that sludge press and haul. You can see that it
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
significantly went up from what it was last year to the $1.2 million, and that's due to us trying to remove solids out of the plant and haul it off. And so that's going to be a recurring item, given that,
I remember that, yeah.
yeah.
Is that gonna be recurring at 1.2 million, or is the bump this year kind of?
It would probably be occurring until we switch over, so 1.2 until 2030. That's what I would expect. I see another thumbs up, so that's what we were thinking, that we're having so much solid enter the plant. We're getting dinged on the DEQ side at the discharge effluent limits, and so to reduce that is to get some of the solids out, and so that's what we plan to do next year, is just do more of it, budget for it.
And are we selling less water historically than ever?
Selling less water?
Yeah, I mean,
don't
providing
know.
less water to people overall? Is it,
No.
because I know as some of our industry has gone away, there's been less demand for water. So we're at a low point, or are we still trending up as far as water demand output?
I wouldn't say we're trending down. I don't think it's an exponential increase. We service about 8,000 accounts. That's stayed pretty steady year over year. You know, you add some, lose some, depending on movement. But it's been pretty flat as far as demand is concerned, yeah.
Well, you're projecting a 25% increase in revenue on water sales, 19% on sewer. And then if rates are going up 8%, I mean, theoretically, the difference on that is growth, right?
As hard as I don't want to say it's hard, but we apply a surcharge onto our non-residential accounts that we don't apply on our residential users. It varies on the pipe size as to what those fees are. So that drives a lot of that increase.
And Mayor, if you're talking about like a historical look back, then yes, probably in the 80s and 90s, we probably had more water consumption because all the plants were still in operation. But once the textile industry went away, the sales of water went down too.
Okay.
And I see we're pulling $849,000 transfer cash from net position on the revenue side for water and sewer.
That would be to fund capital.
Right,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, that was, because I think the capital program was like $2 million or something.
Yeah, so part
like
of
that.
it is, operating revenue plus fund balance appropriation.
Okay. Do you know, and I'm kind of throwing a curveball at you, but do you know what the fund balance for the water and sewer side?
Sure,
Looks
let
like.
me go grab that. I think it's about 4.2.
That's what I think.
Just over 4 million,
Okay,
4,068,000.
okay, so if we take out the 850, that'd be about 3.2-ish. Do we have the same sort of, I know there's like requirements on the general fund side as far as like minimums you have to have in.
It's not the same,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I guess the other question I'd have, as far as like, because I know we did the rate study as far as like figuring out like where rates need to go as far as funding, operating, and capital. I think we've largely taken care of the operating side. And I know we haven't really invested much on the capital side in a couple of years because of the revenue pressures. Like, how close are we to the point where the money coming in is enough to pay for but fixed? As far as like pipes in the ground and that sort of thing?
Based on what we've seen with the calls with Withers, our consultant with the rate study, these rate projections over the next 5 years are going to fund capital, operating expenditures, and add to net position to be able to pay for new capital coming down the pipe. And that would include PAYGO capital as well as debt service capital.
Okay, okay.
Because I do notice there's a lot, what, is it 45 million or something in projects that we need to do for water and sewer? Oh no, 134 million.
Yeah, but that's over
Yep.
the next
Yeah.
couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the CIP in general is the 130. So it's going to be a blended approach, and obviously a lot of things can change if things pop up, but that is, that's what we've given our consultants and said, what rates do we need based on our rate code trends? What do we need to charge to be able to fund either debt service or PAYGO on each of these capital, as well as assuming growth in operating expenditures?
I guess maybe while we're kind of talking about debt, like as far as the amount of debt that we have on this fund, like what is it seems kind of low.
It is currently.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's about 4%.
Okay. So maybe is there? I don't know what the financing environment looks like as far as like, because I know we have projects that need to get done. And kind of like what you were talking about is the blended approach with the PAYGO and the debt. I'm just wondering if maybe we need to look at being more aggressive on that to kind of fix some of the, because like we've got a lot of deferred maintenance on the system. And I guess my concern is that like the longer we kind of put some of this stuff off, the more expensive it gets and the harder it gets.
Yeah, so I know that, and I sat on a call with Jonathan and the engineer with Withers on prioritization of projects based on need and based on how we could group those together for either installment financing, revenue bonds, PAYGO, however we saw fit, with obviously the consultant. So there is a heavy emphasis on capital over the next 5 to 10 years. The projections for like our debt service ratio, that's going to go north of 20% probably within the next several years,
Okay.
based on these capital needs. So this is an aggressive approach on addressing capital.
Okay, okay. No, that's good, because
Yeah.
that's, I think, what we need to do. So, yeah, I guess that's the extent of my questions on water and sewer anyway.
Yeah, for the debt packages and the CIP for the water and sewer, you got, this year in '27, you've got $6.7 million for debt. And then next year in 2028, 4.6, next year in year 2029, 9 million, and next year's 8.2, so they're, all the way out to like, what's that, year 8, so 2034. I mean, there's multiple debt packages like every single year we're putting together.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The only other question I have, what's driving the salary decline year over year?
Position allocations, and there were a few positions that were
In the budget last year that we
Yeah,
didn't
and then
fill
re-
and
you
we're
re-
cutting from this year?
correct, yep. Here's a water sewer bill with the new rates. So our current minimum bill, this is both water and sewer combined. Our current minimum, which includes 2,000 gallons, is $38.73. With a proposed rate change, that would be $41.83 for a total change of $3.10. For a average bill, family, benchmark's about 5,000 gallons for that. Current rate for 5,000 gallons would be, this is inside city limit rates, by the way, $98.55, proposed $106.42 with a $7.87 change over prior year. And irrigation, current rate is $10.99, proposed rate would be $11.87 for an increase of 88 cents for 2,000 gallons.
Can you go back real quick? When we're formulating this, does this include like potential development that's coming online to try to offset, like from an absorption piece, or is this just a snapshot of where we are today in regards to where we need to be for the rate?
Yeah, so this is just looking at what the consumer is going to see on their bill. So
No,
if you're,
no, I get that, but when we're dedetermining the new rate is what I'm trying to
It's
say.
got to be just what's online now, I would think, right? Yeah.
It's like a growth rate.
Yeah.
Growth rate.
Well, you could look at what's
and that
permitted.
tapers off. What was the rate that we used on the front end? Yeah, and then after several years, we taper that back down, assuming growth early, and then
I remember that from the retreat.
Yeah.
Do our, sorry,
Yep,
do our
you're good.
non-residential, do we have a difference between residential and non-residential rates?
Yes,
Okay,
we do.
okay,
This would just be for an
Right,
in-city resident, yeah.
okay, yeah. I couldn't remember.
Where does this benchmark, have we looked at other municipalities who provide water? I know infrastructure differs in needs of capital, but like where do we stand when we're talking about like some of our similar size?
I did not look at the dashboard this year. I don't know if Kevin or Miles.
I remember that like 5 years ago,
Mhm.
we were way down,
It was even the case last year, too.
really.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, you can like group it by like, they have like city size.
One of the rate study.
You can look
Yeah.
at like individual.
The only
cities. It's-
caveat to that is, every municipality or agency has different capital needs, different operating expenditures, so they're funding different things. So it's kind of tough to look at it at an apples to apples, but you can at least get a general idea of what other municipalities are charging.
Some of those systems are also like bankrupt.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in
So
mind.
just a disclaimer on that.
Okay, thanks, Jared.
And stormwater fund balanced at $966,968, which is a 12% decrease over prior year. And what is driving that decrease was a fund balance appropriation in fiscal year '26 to complete various capital needs. And finally, items to be adjusted prior to the final budget: health insurance, property and liability insurance, workers' compensation, the solid waste fee, as I mentioned earlier, planning department increase to include the land development code update, And lastly, fund balance appropriations for design work for Project Tundra and the North Belmont Fire Station.
What do we think the exposure is for our renegotiation with our waste partners? Because don't we have to renegotiate the contract, and we're anticipating probably quite a bit of a spike?
I'll let Miles or Jonathan
Yeah, you're talking about for Waste Pro?
Yeah. Does it expire specifically?
I think it expires July 1st. And so our Public Works Department has already put out an RFP. They've already responded to it. And Waste Pro seems to be the parent low bid again. That amount that we put inside the budget for sanitation includes the amount of
Okay.
the increase. And so right now, we're negotiating with Waste Pro because they gave us a bid. We're negotiating to see if we can get anything less than what they bid. And that project is going to be at the May regular meeting for approval. So you'll see like the bids and how they fall out. But what we did as far as like the budget's concerned, just like I said, we just plugged the,
It's already baked in.
yes, it's
Yeah.
baked into these numbers here.
Is that for the same program with trash recycling and bulk?
Yes,
Does that include recycling?
it does.
Do we see a big, because I know the last time we renewed this, that was a hot thing, was recycling.
It went up, but it was not so far out of whack that we didn't feel like we needed to exclude it. I mean, we'll share those numbers with you all. You can make that decision, but we included keeping recycling.
Like a caveat, it might be interesting to see what municipalities in Gaston County still have recycling.
Recycling.
Because I know a lot have exited due to some of the rising costs associated with it.
Yeah.
Probably a hard sell to the public, but just curious to know.
Well, it depends on how much it is, because I know last time they told us that because our contamination rate was significantly lower than average, that was what helped us on the price there.
What kept it like the cost down? you
Yeah,
mean?
because they can sell it for more than,
We're
yeah.
good recyclers.
yeah, basically.
wow.
Because I know that the ESB had done like a specific campaign around that a couple of years ago, and apparently it worked. But yeah, because I think Gastonia got rid of their program.
Holiday
Mount
got rid of
Holly
theirs.
did.
Did too, right?
Lowell.
Yeah.
I'd just be curious to see who.
Seems to be, I mean, what would also be helpful, and I don't know how quantifiable this is at this point and how recent the numbers are, but there seems to always be a conversation too around, you know,
Could
is-
Waste Pro
is the
provide us that
juice-
information?
I'm sure they could, if you want it. They're supposed to take recycling to the recycling places. So I don't really, once it leaves our hands,
But how much of it is
we're not
actually
responsible for it.
producing an environmental benefit. I think that's a conversation that gets had quite a bit lately. Not as much as what you might think.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we could ask Waste Pro those
Yeah, maybe
questions.
just those two things. Sorry to
Yeah.
derail, but for the May conversation, that might be helpful.
Are you talking about, like the tonnage that is recycled?
Maybe percentage. Out of what
Percentage?
percentage do they collect actually makes it to the recyclable, whatever you call it, processing places?
Yeah.
Because if it's 20%, we're the X percent of the cost of the total program is like
Yeah.
way
Right.
beyond that. It doesn't make sense to proceed.
Right,
Yeah. Because trash is cheaper, right? Or is it?
I would think so.
I would imagine. Start sending it
I
to
think
space.
those rates have gone up too at the landfill from what I hear.
Yeah. Yeah, we collect, like, the numbers themselves are less than, but we only collect recycling every 2 weeks. So, yep, you're right, they're probably higher overall. I've got the numbers here. Flip to 'em. If you're interested right now, or,
We can wait.
Well,
We can keep going.
I have
Yeah,
another
we can
question
keep
I can
going.
ask in
Alright.
the
Yeah,
meantime.
go ahead, Mark.
So you mentioned the solid waste fee earlier.
Mhm.
I know historically, we've kind of tried to budget that so it covers half the cost. Is that what the increase?
Yes, based on the contract amount that we have in there.
Okay.
And so the rate that was presented at the front of the general fund, which I can go back to that would cover 50% of the new contract amount that we have baked into the current budget.
Okay. Yeah, so that's an increase of like $1.50.
Yeah.
More or less.
Mhm.
Okay. I have some other questions that aren't trash related.
Well, that's the end of this slide deck, so I will turn it over to you all for discussion, questions. We also have first try on here with the capital model in case you wanted to play with that.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Can you walk me through how you got at the sales tax number?
Yes. So, let me pull that out. So currently, we have 7 months' worth of data of sales tax collections. To date, we've collected almost $4 million in sales tax, which is an average of $570,000 per month. The projected 12-month on that is approximately $6.8 million. And we have a memo from the league where we can anticipate an additional 3% over current year collections. So that brings us to 6.9 million conservatively.
Okay.
Just for reference, we budgeted for 5.25 million in this current fiscal year, and we're already at 4, averaging over $500,000 per month.
Okay.
So we should meet those
Did
budget
we-
projections.
Was the 5.2, do we use a similar process to get it that last year?
So last year,
It's much
we,
lower, I think.
it was a 6% over prior adopted versus collections. So this year, we're
okay.
driving towards what we're actually going to realize to basically account for every nickel of sales tax that we're going to get in the door.
Okay, yeah, so you're grounding in the actual number versus the budgeted number.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, because I know we've kind of under budgeted that historic, which is not necessarily a problem.
Yeah.
But,
It's a
um,
good
It's about
surprise.
the same
Yeah.
cushion. If you look at the graphs and trends year over year, it's around the same cushion year to year. Obviously, sales tax has been increasing over the last 5 years, but that buffer has remained about the same. This year, we're trying to close the gap on that buffer to realize actual revenue coming in the door.
Okay. Zoning, this is just more of an observation. It looks like we're forecasting a decrease in zoning permit revenue.
So I do know, I'll let Tiffany speak more to that, but I even in current year trends, permitting is down this year. I'll let Tiffany kind of talk if you'd like her to
Yeah,
talk
no,
more
I
about the
just kind of
specifics
interested
on
to
that.
know what's going on there.
Yep.
Sure. So there's a few different things when it comes to zoning permits that make it a little bit challenging to forecast. One is that we issue zoning permits for folks that just want to shed in their backyard, a new pool, houses that are already standing. And so those things, year over year depends on the season, and it also depends on the household income and the level of the economy as to whether or not folks want to do and invest in those extras for their own personal residence. On the new home construction side, while we had historically seen some major and large subdivisions, and those do still have some lots that are continuing to build out, so it's not like we are at a zero level of new lots that are still going to continue to have permits. As you may have noticed over the past few years, we have seen a decline in the number of large major subdivisions that have even come before council for approval. Again, some of that is anticipated to be market driven and land cost driven, interest rate driven. There's a lot of different factors from a financial perspective. So it also goes to land availability. So it becomes a little bit challenging to forecast. We do know that there are in the works several subdivisions that are under planning's review, but those things are going to take years to realize from a permitting perspective. So it's anticipated that we would see a gap. We would see the subdivisions that have already been approved continue to get permitted out until all those lots are permitted. And then you may find a couple years of a gap between when those end and when any possible new subdivisions could begin permitting. Does that help?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the revenue is less interesting to me on this than the fact that the
It
movement in
decreased.
the permit applications.
Yep, it doesn't, it's kind of often hard to track to one single source, but generally, and in planning, we anticipate this, you'll have waves of development that come all at once, and then there are several factors that talked about overall build out. When it comes before you guys, you often see subdivisions at one time, right? It's this master plan of a development, but oftentimes when those are actually going to permitting, they could be phased, and each development could have its own year build out plan, right? Some might be aggressive and say, well, we're gonna build out this whole neighborhood in 3. Some could be more on the 5-year, and it just depends on the infrastructure necessary to get those actually to vertical construction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Prior year ad valorem taxes, looks like there's a fairly significant drop in the revenue we're projecting from that. Are we just getting better at collecting past due?
So our collection rate that we baked in this year was 99%. In previous years, we've used 98.
Okay.
Historically, we have collected over 99% of our revenue, so we adjusted that this year to reflect that.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. I think I had another revenue question. Oh, this is slightly off topic, but, so there's this talk about like the levy and potential constitutional limits on what the levy can be. Just for my own interest, would that be that the $15.8 million figure in the budget, is that, like, when we're talking about the levy, is that what we're referring to?
The state legislation on property taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Is that
so-
what you're-
Yes.
I guess to answer your question, the 15.8 is what we anticipate. The levy that's what we anticipate to collect net of the levy. So there's a 1% buffer there based on the 99% collection rate and 100% levy.
Okay.
It does not take into consideration
The cap.
property tax caps.
No, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, when we're kind of talking about this idea of like what a cap on the levy would potentially look like, I'm just trying to understand, like,
I think we all are, because we were at the town and state, or excuse me, the chamber event the other night, and John Torbett got up there and spoke. They don't even have a calculation that they can show you to what the impact would be. Like, they're talking about at such high level right now, which is kind of scary that no one has coming up or devising, showing us what the impact is going to be at the
Doesn't seem like they've thought it all the way
level.
through yet.
No.
okay. Okay. No, yeah, that wasn't really it was more of a
Sure.
definitional question.
Sure.
But if they capped it, that would be the line that would be
That'd
affected.
go down. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
If they cap it below where we are today, right? I guess it depends. That's whatever the calculation shows, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, because like we're showing a 7% growth in that number.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to figure, is like, well, okay, well, if they had a cap that said you can't go above inflation plus population growth, that's probably closer to like 4 or 5%. So potentially creates some issues further down in the budget if that number is the one that is capped. So that's not necessarily germane to this
Sure.
conversation, though. It's just, if anybody else has any other questions, I'm not intending to. Meeting here.
I just, maybe a high level one. I know it's not crazy material, but what's the plan around recreation and some of the additional income coming from that? Are we planning to do like lease out programs and stuff like that, or naming rights or anything like that this year?
I know that there was a drive for recreation donations. I know that there's been a plan, and Jason and Kevin have sat down to discuss that. I don't know if Jason or Kevin want to discuss those plans.
Yeah, Jason can.
We have rolled out a sponsorship package, and we're currently, we have some interest in that. It's just started. We have a platinum sponsor that's donated $10,000. We have some more interest in that, but because we just formalized it, it's early on in its stages.
So we probably don't necessarily have that baked into from a revenue perspective in the budget then?
Say that one more time.
We probably don't have the revenue booked in here potentially from that type of
We
program?
do have recreation donations in there, but not related to the program.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. Thank you.
Well, I can keep going if. As far as the gas and fuel line items, it's like most of those were flat year over year. I know a lot's kind of changed in the last month in that area. Like, is there enough give in the budget if we need to, spend more on gas
Yeah, so
next year?
some of our, I guess, heavier vehicle use departments, we've met one-on-one with departments. Looking at trends for the expense line in current year, it looks like we're going to be coming in under budget. We did adjust some of the gas and fuel based on those conversations, and we all landed at those numbers together in agreement.
What about the raw
Obviously,
material?
we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what those
Right,
are going
right.
to look like, but
What about like chemical spend at the plant? Because I think you guys kept that flat, and that's like 300K of expense or something like that.
yep. So kind of similarly, I'll let Jonathan speak to actual chemical costs. That's not really my scope. But again,
I can
that
tell
was
you
part
all
of
about it.
yeah. But that was part of their budget request, and so we flowed that into our operating budget.
So over this year, thankfully, we haven't seen a large increase in any chemicals. They're holding, at least right now, seem to be fairly steady. And we felt like going into next year, we would be okay with the current numbers.
Were you guys underspent? I can't remember from.
A little bit.
What's our course of action for that? Because I'm curious, because it's not even just, me and Miles were talking about that. It's not just vehicles, it's not just chemicals. Pretty much everything on the budget is going to probably be impacted to an extent of what we're seeing come out of the Iranian crisis. And you're still, like, we started this situation at 60-something dollars a barrel, and it's still like 90-something, 88. Like, it's going to go into next month more than like, are we just going to continue to do budget amendment to appropriate overspend, or do we have an action plan to try to mitigate that?
At this point, based on the balanced budget, we try to project the best that we can, but we can't predict everything.
Yeah.
So if costs obviously continue to rise dramatically because of the conflict, then certainly we would need to address that in some fashion, likely if with a budget amendment. But again, we don't know how long this is going to last, the ramifications. We just do the best that we can at this point in time to project what we're going to see, and then, for lack of better words, fix it as we move along.
And where would that come out of? Capital, I guess? If it did need to be a budget appropriations to
It would
fix
be out of your
overspend?
unrestricted net position or fund
Unrestricted.
balance, yeah.
Or possibly at the end of the year, like, reevaluate the line item budgets and then
Sure.
appropriate other lines to that line that's gone over, if that's
Okay.
the case.
Yeah, we have
You
flexibility,
can move
budget
money within.
budget transfers, budget
Yeah.
amendments, as long as it's within the same fund.
Okay.
And Lord forbid, if it gets any worse, if we see that it continues to go throughout next year, there's always the spending freeze option and other things that we possibly can do to curtail
Just
it.
as long as we're having those conversations, which I'm
Sure.
sure we are, but I mean, I think it could be probably pretty impactful, right?
Mhm.
Miles?
Yes.
I saw that there were no new positions recommended, although 6 were proposed. Can you just sort of walk through the thinking of that aspect of the budget and why you didn't feel any of the proposed new positions were justified at this time?
Well, I feel that the positions are justified. It's a numbers game for the budget, really. The way that it was first, the budget was first drafted, we included all positions and then included all the other line items in there, then went through and adjusted the operational lines, keeping the positions inside of it. And we were still in a negative $368,000, I believe, with the positions still included. So I instructed Jared and Kevin to run me a budget with no positions so that I'd have an easier chance to balance the budget, without, of course, asking for a tax increase or affecting other line items that could affect employees' benefits or salaries or anything else. So I wanted to preserve that category, existing employees, and said, tough decision. I think they're all needed. They're all recommended from department heads. So who am I to say you don't need a police officer, you don't need a fire inspector? But it was just the balance of the actual budget itself was the reason I decided not to include those.
Thank you.
And quick question too, we talked about it at the retreat. For the property that was just acquired, the Stowe property, we had talked about potentially putting some funds allocated towards envisioning and master planning. Is that somewhere in the line items for planning and zoning, or?
No, I don't think we included that at all in any budget. We wanted to get through the budget cycle first and then bring that to your attention, whether we move forward with like a visioning exercise or something else. And I really have no idea how much that would be. So instead of, throwing a number out there and me not hitting the right number, I thought we'd go through the process of letting you all discuss what you want to see next. And then if it is a consultant third party, at that point, bring it to you with the cost, and it would be a budget amendment at that time.
Can we add that to an upcoming council workshop? Or
That
something?
one's scheduled, I believe, at either the June or the July. Laura, you may have that when that one's kind of penciled in on our. But it's upcoming this
Okay.
summer. We wanted to
Yeah.
get through this
That makes sense.
process first. June,
Yep.
yeah.
June, okay,
yeah.
cool, thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is just not necessarily a budget question, but in the police department budget, it's got sign-on / relocation. I'm assuming those are funds that are used to like entice people to join the police department.
Yeah.
Do we, like, is there any kind of like employment agreement associated with those? Like you've got to work for the city for
There
so
is.
long?
Yeah, so when they first sign on, it's a $3,000 sign-on bonus for a new officer. And then they complete their training, which is usually about 6 months. And then they would receive their second $3,000 installment. And I believe it's a year, Corky, that they have to be employed. Otherwise, they would have to repay us prorated amount based on how much time that they've actually worked for us. But they would pay back anything prior to that 12-month employment.
Okay. What is separation allowance?
That is for law enforcement retirement.
Okay. Okay. Another one. Oh, the body cameras. There's a big increase on that. I was just wondering what that was.
This is probably best for Corky, Chief Falls to, or Captain Black to come up and explain. Yeah, we had a big discussion about body cam and the company that's now going to supply body cams if this budget's approved, and so they have all the details. I'd rather the police department explain it.
Yeah, so the company we were or currently have body cameras with now was bought out several years ago. We have been with that company for 8 years. When we started with them, they were kind of a startup company for body cameras, which is why the rate we got was so good. Chief Falls was actually able to renew that contract 4 years ago, and in that meantime, they got they got bought out. So we began looking for other vendors, and pretty much all of them are in the roundabout price range. This is the way companies, that's just their price now for body cameras for police agencies. They know agencies got to have body cameras no matter what, and it is a very high cost.
Would this get us with that, what's being recommended, would this get us to the point that we have most all officers who need those body cams with sort of
Yes.
the latest and greatest technology?
Yes, so right now, my lieutenants are kind of struggling sending the cameras back to the company to get parts replaced. So that's kind of what we're dealing with now. I'm operating on about 1 or 2 spares right now. With the agency of 55 officers that need body cameras, it's kind of a challenge right now. So this Axon contract would definitely negate that. It wouldn't be a problem anymore because after 2.5 years, they actually come in and replace every single body cameras under that contract. So our equipment will always stay up to date. It wouldn't be in the range it is right
So
now.
do you anticipate this being a recurring at the same level annually? Or is
Yes.
this more of a one-time upcharge that?
The contract is for 5 years.
Okay.
So it would be under a 5-year contract.
But is the or is
196?
196, is that?
That'd be an
every
annual.
year?
That would be an annual, yes, for 5 years.
There's a lot of software and data storage associated
There
with that
is,
too, right?
it's some AI technology, some translation technology. It's a lot of it is kind of up to date with the technology, which actually speed up our officers' time on traffic stops, their report writing, some of the things that they're having to manually enter. So that right now, when they capture, if they go on a call, they capture the call on their body camera. When they get done with that call, they have to manually go in and enter the call notes and tag the reporting number.
I
This
can
new
vouch for
software
that.
actually-
That is an intensive process.
Yeah,
After
it
my
is.
ride
It-
along
it-
Friday
but-
night.
and it takes
Two-thirds of the time they
Right, it
spent
takes
was
some
having to
time.
document. Yeah.
With this company, it actually integrates with our CAD system. So when an officer records that body camera, it correlates with the call in the CAD system. So it automatically tags the right report number. And all the call notes that were entered in by the dispatcher, by the caller, and then by the officer. So it
Just
kind of
out of
speeds up that process.
Curiosity, I know one of the sergeants was explaining to me that I guess one of the latest models actually activates whenever
Yes.
their sidearm is pulled.
Yes, or when the blue lights get cut on. So it's another step that the officers don't have to do. So if they deploy their taser, they deploy their firearm, or they cut on their blue lights to go to a call, they don't have to worry about during responding to that call, I got to cut on my body camera.
Yeah.
And, driving, at increased speeds to get to the call. That's one less thing they have to do. It automatically cuts on.
So there are some operational efficiencies with
Oh,
the new
a
program.
ton with this new
Yeah.
program.
Okay.
It is night and day difference between what we have and then what is out there right now. So,
So there's no inflation on drug buy money?
well,
$5,000 even?
Myron, did you have some information?
We
you'd
want a
like to
COLA.
share?
So in that deal, Chief, thank you. In that deal, our tasers is built in that price for the 196 as well. So it's not just body cameras. It's body cameras and tasers. Our tasers that we're using now they came out about in 2008. So those two are fixing to be obsolete. They're no longer making those tasers anymore, so we'd have to go to a new one anyway within the next several years. So this package deal is tasers and body cameras combined.
And does this get you everything you need, like enough for the existing workforce you have, or the?
Yes, it would give us plenty of spares, actually built in with, if we added a few officers in the next several years, we would still be okay, and get us up to date on the equipment.
And this contract covers like software upgrades, storage upgrades.
Storage fees, software upgrades, all that is included in the contract.
It's 5 years, you said?
There's also seem to be some larger increases in like travel and training, user fees, and licensing agreements and vehicle equipment leases. Is that something
Chief, you
that
want to
Chief Falls can speak to? Yes.
Go ahead, Jim.
Increases in the budgets for travel and training, user fees and licensing agreements, and vehicle and equipment leases.
So for travel and training, I've been utilizing asset forfeiture money to kind of get us through. So just based on what we've been spending versus what we need to be at, that's where your increase was for that. For vehicle equipment, that's just like with inflation, everything goes up. And what was the other one?
User fees and licensing agreements.
We took some things that were in other places in the budget and line items and put them all in one spot so it'd be more efficient. And so taking those things and put them in there, but we've also had some new contracts with some software and stuff like that. That's part of that increase.
For user fees, I think the city of Gastonia was paying our Microsoft 365 subscription, and they stopped doing that, and so we had to take over our own Microsoft 365 subscription, and that's in the tune of like $17,000 out of that one line item. That's $27,000 for user fees.
Fortunately, we've been getting it for free for quite some time. It's not to get too technical, but we're going from an E1 account to an E3 account, which we should have had an E3 account all along. But with the build of the computers at Gastonia, they've been putting the Microsoft package on our computers. So we have the Microsoft, Outlook for our email, but we didn't actually have under contract. It was basically given to us for free by the city of Gastonia for many years. So they were going through their stuff, doing what they do on their audit stuff, and found that that was the case, and they cut us off. So then we couldn't do a Word document. You think about that in Excel for our higher level people. It was affecting mainly the admin and people worked in the office more than anybody else. And so we had to handle that. So they graciously have allowed us to, in July, for a few accounts to continue that. So that's part of that.
They're not charging us back.
No.
Just,
I'm not going to make any other comments on that. Nothing's for free is all I'm going to say.
just for clarification, back to the vehicle lease, we've replaced some surplus vehicles too, I think, right? Is this adding to the fleet at all, or is this primarily upgrading and replacing vehicles that were?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Are these cars, or what are we leasing?
Police cars.
Police cars.
So they're like the patrol explorers, you see, they were charged up till 23 when they quit making those. There are some trucks and things like that.
Okay.
So we got a new motorcycle added to the fleet. It's going to help.
2 years
track
in the
down.
making. I actually put in for 2 and we scaled it back to 1. So we've got that and we've got another surprise coming. I'm not sure when it'll be finished, so yeah, I look forward to that. It's going to be a surprise. I ain't going to give y'all much more than that, but yes, we normally with
Credit or debit?
Debit. I was hoping at Garibaldi Fest, but I don't know that it's going to be done. So it's
We got an armored vehicle.
no demilitarization of the police, obviously.
Social worker.
You got a tank.
We got a tank.
So servant mindset, not warrior. So anyway, so we're hoping to unveil that soon. We did get the motorcycle, but to go back to what you said, Mark, if it's anything other than a police vehicle with the leases, we always get any of the specialty vehicles approved through Miles and Kevin.
Okay. So that 40% year-over-year bump that's all just contractual increases in the cost to lease these things?
Yes.
Is there an opportunity to look for a new agency to go through? Or is this like with the leaseholders and all that stuff, or is it pretty much cut and dry for
I'd say we're
municipalities?
pretty far into the process, and to go with someone else would cost us a lot more money than what it's costing
Gotcha.
every year for what we're getting. And we're almost at the point where we'll know where it levels off based on a few more cars we have to replace that we do every year. So there's not many more cars to where we're actually completely in the program till we can understand how much money we're going to get back. Because through that leasing program, you know, instead of, say the car, you replace a car at 120,000 miles. Well, through that enterprise leasing, they actually have a certain vehicle, like a Ford Explorer might, you know, say 80,000 miles, what the market is for a resale. So they know to go ahead and resell that car to get more money back for us versus getting at 120 and not getting much. So we don't know exactly where that is yet because we're not completely leased, like all of our cars are not under the lease yet. So when we get to there, we'll have a better understanding of that.
Okay.
So are we trying to get to the point where all of our vehicles?
All the police
All
vehicles,
police
yes.
vehicles.
All the
We
police
used to own
vehicles?
them, and then it was just
Yeah,
getting
because
too-
remember we used to do like the surplus designation
Yeah.
every
It was
couple months.
$256,000 a year for cars and equipment every year, so.
Do you have any more questions on specific line items?
I had a question on, this is more of a general, for the property and liability and workers' comp, like the spreading between departments. Is that, like, is there anything about a particular department that makes that bigger or smaller, or is it just kind of a? 'cause
Workers'
like, for
comp's
exam-
based on payroll, right?
For
property
workers'
and
comp,
liability.
yes, but for property and liability, it's based on assets.
Okay,
And-
because I just noticed some are like a lot bigger than others.
Yep.
and-
So, my accountant Susan's done a really good job of nailing down which departments have which assets. And so that, if you recall on this last slide, there's property and liability insurance that we're still, number one, waiting to get the numbers back. And secondly, making sure that the cost allocations are divided amongst the departments correctly. As far as general fund to water sewer fund spend, it's accurate, but we want to make sure that we're cleaning up the actual interdepartmental activity correctly.
Are
So
we
those
still-
numbers will be moving.
Are we still doing the property and casualty through the league?
Yes.
Yes.
Have we talked to Hub maybe about other options?
We have not yet.
Because I know they're a huge
Yeah.
broker,
Yeah.
and maybe there might be some opportunities to move the program.
Yeah, possibly through next year, we could talk to them to see what that might look like, given that we're talking about the health insurance and the self-funded health
Yeah.
insurance.
Did they do
So
like a bundle
to throw this
program?
into it,
I'm
it
sure
might
they
be too complicated right now, but for for next fiscal year, I think it would probably make sense to do that.
Yeah,
You said that workers' comp, even through the league, is self-insured, right? Just like the health insurance? But the
That's
property and
the way I
liability, I don't think you
understand
can you can't self-insure the property and liability. So I guess
No,
they're
you-
going out,
yeah.
can you?
Yeah, well, it basically just functions like a policy with a really big deductible.
Okay,
Like, you could have like a policy with like $1 million deductible on
yeah,
it,
yeah.
to cover whatever.
I assume that
but-
would be contingent on your appetite for.
Well, yeah, I mean, there, it may or may
Or
not
how
make
much you want to
sense.
restrict from your
So
general
if those-
fund or
yeah.
If
capital
those,
outlay.
uh,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Renewals are still being negotiated. Is the plugs that are in here now, is that kind of based on worst case from what
Yeah,
you're
so
hearing
we
so far?
assumed a 10% increase on property and liability.
Yep.
I believe I baked the same in for workers' comp, but Miles, you had shared with me that if you wanted to share that with council about workers' comp specifically.
Yeah, going back to property and liability, it was a 10% increase, and that's what we're projecting. For workers' comp, I think you plugged in like an 8,
Mhm.
maybe an 8.8%, but we've heard that there could be a decrease in
Mhm.
that. So I think that we funded to the max right now, which means we could
Correct.
have some cost savings. The league should be getting our numbers back this week or early next week, so
Mhm.
we can bake those into the May meeting.
You said we are self-insured on the workers' comp?
No,
No, through the league.
it's through the league.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that I know you could definitely self-insure on.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, Hub would probably be able to tell you whether it makes sense or not,
Mhm.
but I don't know what size you have to be to, where that makes sense from a financial perspective, but I know that's definitely an option on the workers' comp. But, yeah, well, it's just something to maybe look at.
Okay.
On the fire department, vehicle maintenance, there was a pretty big delta between the department requests and then the manager suggestion.
For capital outlay or?
No, the vehicle maintenance line item.
Mm.
So, 134, I think was the, or no, 200 was the department
asked for
request.
200.
We
Mhm.
kept it flat from this year. And I just kind of wanted to see what the thinking was there, because I just anecdotally, it seems like the fire trucks have quite a bit of work done on them.
They do. They have a lot of work. But I'm trying to balance the budget the best I can.
No, yeah.
And so, I mean, we went through every line item with the fire department, and it was one of those give and takes. Hey, I don't know if I could afford $200,000 in that line item. Can we go with 134? And hope and pray that our trucks don't break down or anything else.
better knock on
So, you never can tell. So I just said, let's just keep it flat over
Yeah.
the past year.
Do you know where we're at with that?
I can pull that
Budget?
for you.
You probably got that.
Yeah, I'd just be kind of curious year to date.
It would be interesting to see.
And if we feel like we're
Yeah.
getting, close to that line item, going over budget, similar to like the gas discussion, we could always look at another line item potentially that has not been funded, or either bring a budget amendment. If we're maxing out already at the 134 and the next, repairs $40,000, it'd be a budget amendment at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just, what kind of caught my attention on this in particular was because I know they're asking for 2 new trucks. I assume that's because the existing trucks are old.
You know,
My experience with old vehicles is they don't get cheaper to fix, so. Of course, I've never owned a fire truck, so, though that would definitely make my son's life. Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious to see where we're at with that current year. But I'm sure there's enough flex in the budget to make the number work. If we
The
have to.
lifetime on a typical engine is only about, 8 to 10 years maybe?
Chief, you wanna,
I think you
got some input on this?
So
talked about that in
through
retreat.
March 31st, we have spent 85,000 out of 134, so that leaves about 49,000 remaining.
So about 3/4 of the year through. So you actually probably.
And
might
that
come
line
under.
item, it really just depends
Yeah.
on what's going on. It could be up, it could be down. And we met with Chief, and he felt comfortable with that number.
So one of the things that we were looking at there is the tower some of its warranty started running out this year. So some of those repairs we've made this year have been covered under warranty that won't be next year.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're factoring into that, some of the warranty dropping off on some of our trucks.
We had some body repair work done too,
We've
right?
had
To the-
two sets of body repair on that truck.
On the
two-
tower?
Two different trucks, one on the
Oh.
tower and one on the engine.
That are obviously not covered by warranty.
That's correct.
But if it's not our fault, then there's a insurance
Insurance
company
company.
that possibly could pay that down, and that's not captured inside that line item.
Okay. On the South Point VFD contract, I thought that was done.
So those are shared use costs that you're seeing
Okay,
on there. So
okay, that-
we still share the cost of any use of household items down there.
Okay, okay. And then I think I saw something on the slide about a new professional development program.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of interested, very high level, what that is.
Professional development, so that's giving them some kind of incentive to go out and get further education and certifications. And it would take 2 years for anyone to get into that program. So what that 112 is to get those that have currently been here for years. So the most they would see in a 2-year period, a new hire would be 2.5%.
Okay.
And that's for certifications to send them out for them to go out and get extra certifications and improve their delivery.
Okay, okay. Do we, when somebody gets certified,
Mhm.
is it an issue, like somebody gets certified and then they go work for another fire department that maybe pays them more?
Absolutely. If we've lost 7 in a year.
Oh, wow.
So absolutely, they go other places to make more money.
Do we, when they go through a program like this, is there any way to,
Charge them back?
yeah, basically, at least make sure that we're recouping our investment in the program?
Similar to what we do with the police, you mentioned a moment ago, like with that
That's for sign-on.
step.
That's
We
just
don't
for
do any
sign-on.
sign-on.
Yeah, but it could be tied to a training bonus too, right? Or-
I assume you could structure a program that way.
You could, but we're always going to lose people. We live between Charlotte and Gastonia, two of the biggest departments in the state.
Yeah.
We're always going to lose to them, regardless of how many people we send to certifications, send to classes. They can go over there and start out at $56,000 a year, where they're starting out here at 45. Why would they not go over there? So that's
Yeah.
why we're losing. And to get that incentive for that certification, we use that professional development as more of a retention program than anything, because we are losing people.
Okay.
Well, I say we would like to use that program as a retention tool.
Right. Power of positive thinking. Okay.
The ones we're losing, on average, is it more like a rookie, first year, maybe 2 years in, and then they're jumping ship, or is it your seasoned guys
It's
going
across
over there
the board.
for?
It's across the board.
Okay.
In the last year, we've lost some that have been here 13, 14 years, and some that have been here 2 years.
Okay.
Is it just the pay that's driving that?
I think that's a huge driving factor, pay and some of the benefits, yeah.
Okay.
How does that compare, and I know you're somewhat new in the job here, but how does that compare with the last couple of years, would you say? That attrition?
It's probably about consistent.
Yeah.
I would say consistent. I think the last couple of years, it's more of we've seen more of, I'd hate to speak because I wasn't here 3 or 4 years ago, but I think it's more, you're starting to see more of the longer tenured guys see more pay elsewhere. And we're battling with Mount Holly back and forth every time they raise pay. We're losing people to them. So if we would raise pay, they're going to lose them to us. So I mean, it's a trend across the country. People are struggling for pay, so I think we're always going to see that. I hate to lose the people, but
Is that level of churn manageable? It seems like a lot.
the level, excuse me.
The level of churn with,
Attrition, people.
We're in uncharted territory. It's the last couple of years. It's been nationwide. That level's been like that. It's people, firemen shopping. They're shopping all over the country trying to find somewhere to go.
Well, that raises a question in my mind. Are we being realistic in our salary expense, projection for 26, 27? Are we going to be in a situation where we're looking at doing a big budget amendment to, for salary increases, or is this?
Well, we've got another pay study coming up.
But we just completed the pay study last year, right?
No, it's been 2
2
years
years,
now.
2 years
And
ago.
so, based on the personnel policy, it's every 3 years, and so we've got a consultant funded
Yep.
for this year that we're approaching. And so we'll study everybody's salaries again, and then next July 1st, 2027 will be at that time will be the
Effective date.
Yeah, the effective date, or the changes, or whatever it needs to be for salaries.
Which, to your point, Mayor, what we did was before that, just to give you a little historical context, it was more ad hoc, right, I would say. So the council at the time, we decided, let's set up a routine of what's the average of pay cycle studies, so that, each year you don't have like a major fluctuation, or if you have a major gap, right, and then you have to do a big payout at once. So we did, I think we landed on every 3 years.
It's 3 years.
Yeah.
And dependent upon whoever's in the pay study cycle, it could be that, Mount Holly was in one last year, therefore their pay increased. And that's for any employees, not just fire, but, if they increase their pay for that one, and then we move into our pay study next year, maybe our salaries catch up, and then the next one would be Lowell, whoever else in the county. So it's, I don't know, it's just cyclical, it seems like, for pay studies, and then salary increases, and then people jumping ship, and then I wish it was not that way, but.
Do you have any ideas on how to retain your guys better than what's going on?
I think pay is one of the biggest things.
Okay.
When you got a new guy, you can look at the benefits, they get the benefits, they get the state retirement, but when a guy comes in here making $17 an hour, when he can go to Alexis Volunteer Fire Department making $20 an hour, why would he come here? He's not looking at that end benefit. So we're struggling, we're competing with that dollar figure at the end of the week, so they see paycheck on Friday, but they're not taking into account retirement's coming out of that, health insurance is coming out of that. So that's one of the biggest struggles, is the pay.
And these certifications, most of them are mandatory or optional?
No, there's 2 mandatory certifications that they have to be to ride the fire truck. That's firefighter and EMT certifications. These certifications for this program is way above and beyond.
Yeah.
So the first tier, you've got things like driver, operator, and some of those other things that they can go get.
They can.
Most of them are going to get those anyway because we need them to, but it's just a way to kind of give back to them a little bit, to reward them for their time.
Do they have the other, I mean, imagine Charlotte and Gastonia probably offer something like this, but like, do the other departments in
A lot of
the area?
departments do, yes, sir. I know, for instance, Charlotte, you get a huge educational incentive, you get a prior military incentive, you get, your education split up into 2, plus you get longevity incentives. There's a bunch of incentives you get at some of those. I know Charlotte well because I came from there, but Gastonia, I believe, is doing some of the same stuff. And wanting to say, those non-municipal departments that are also full-time, since they're not paying into Elders, they have an increased added benefit paying in additional 401k more than most, but that's to offset that retirement.
Okay.
And how many total personnel do we have in the department?
41.
And we're losing 7 on average.
I feel like this is probably a conversation we're going to be having again.
So I'm going to back up on that. 41 of the 8 that council approved last year's budget, we've still not been able to fill those because we've had a couple offers turned down.
So we have 41 positions.
We have 41 positions. We're
38,
currently up
39
to
of them.
38 filled at the moment. But as we lose those, if we get a new person in, we're starting back at ground zero with that person.
Are most of our new hires, they tend to be more at like the rookie level, or are we recruiting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Captains are the hardest positions to get right now. We're struggling with those for the tower. That's where we've struggled the most, is captains and drivers. The new hire, the new guy, the rookies, we can get those, but then most of those we have to send to training, so we're 6 months from seeing them on the fire truck when we hire them.
Okay, so there's a lag there.
There is a lag.
So is it unheard of to require a certain number of years of service for the new guys when they come in to try to offset some of that attrition?
To require, you mean for the,
Like like you got to do 3 years before you can go anywhere else to be a firefighter or something like that?
it depends on where you are. I mean, I think you could probably do something like that, but then I think you would have a hard time getting people to commit to it.
There'd have to be financial justification
Right.
for it.
Do we do a sign-on bonus or anything? Okay.
Could we do one to
Well, that's how you do it. You give
Yeah.
the sign-on bonus and then.
That's what I'm saying.
create a tether.
Do like the sign on and take a little off the salary to then put them on the hook for
Kind of like we
2,
do with
3
the
years.
police.
Yeah.
We'll investigate, we'll look into that, for sure.
I think we would be open to suggestions. Maintaining fire is important.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So definitely we want to be an open line of communication. If you're seeing something we're not,
We'll
Yeah.
look into that.
please let us know.
It sounds
We
like
only
you're
know
having
when
the same issues that we were seeing in the military, where your senior guys are leaving, and you're just left with a lot of the
Right.
newer guys that don't have the knowledge and don't have the
a
experience.
place we get into is as we, adding the tower staffing's hard because we're adding 3 captains. So that's, historically, we've worked people up through the ranks and we've had people ready to go, but we're adding positions and losing the lower positions. So we're not getting people, we're not getting the younger folks up to the position where they're ready to be a captain, ready to be a driver.
How
So
much
your past experience, how much experience have you had? So I've, we've got a couple that I would love to see be a captain, but they themselves, and I respect their thoughts on this, they say they're not ready. And I respect that because, I mean, they have their guys on the back, they have their life in their hands. So if they tell me they're not ready, they're not ready. I'm not gonna force anybody in a position they're not ready for. So
Right.
So, Chief, did you say you had to have 3 captains on the tower?
one for each shift, yes,
One
sir.
for each shift?
One for each shift.
Okay. And so not having sufficient captains in the rank or on board, that might restrict you from being able to have full usage of the tower at times, or does that
The tower, we have a
impact your
driver
sched-
assigned to the tower all the time, so the tower is always staffed with a driver.
Yeah.
And we're getting really close. We've got interviews scheduled. We've had interviews scheduled within the next 2 weeks for 2 captains, and I think we'll be up to speed on our captains. And I say all that to say it's taken us a year to get here, but we're getting really close to be able to staff the tower 100%, full staffing 24/7.
Yeah.
Now, it is staffed 24/7 with at least one person now.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chief Kennedy? Hey, Chief, don't go
Thank
too
y'all.
far. We might need you again.
I won't.
Thank you.
I did have a question on since we're not adding any new positions, what's the big driver to the street salary?
Oh, yeah, I had the same.
Like
question.
25% increase? Is that to keep up-
Position allocations.
There's also a large increase in the parks maintenance budget for the streets.
Yeah, that one is for, Miles, I know you had a note on that, for the specifically parks maintenance.
Yeah, hang on just one second.
Or the fields, they've done a lot of work on the fields.
Oh, I see. So, okay, for some reason I thought we said some of the positions that we filled, or we had opened last year, we didn't fill in
The
close.
cost allocation of a position, some's hitting general fund, some's hitting water sewer, some are hitting all 3 funds, stormwater, water sewer, and general fund. And I can share a breakdown of those positions if you'd like, Alex.
Gotcha.
So you
Yeah.
just changed like what part of the budget some of these positions hit?
Yes, so, and it's justifiable based on, what they're actually doing. So I'll use myself as an example. I'm 50-50 between general fund and water sewer. That's the same with our city managers. Just thinking off the top of my head, we've got our city engineer that's cost allocated, public works director, deputy public works director, city clerk, HR director, lead inspector. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head, but I have a spreadsheet that cost allocates all those positions.
That would be helpful just
Yeah.
to probably look at, just so we know.
I think there's about 15 positions.
But that's what's driving the 25%?
That
Coming out
and-
of somewhere, or part of it's coming out of somewhere and going into there?
Yeah, so there was I believe there was a drop in water sewer.
Mhm.
So you're seeing some of that shift back to general fund.
Got
Oh,
you.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Got you. Which is actually what we wanted to do, right? Get that out of the enterprise fund and push it.
Yeah,
more
and,
towards the
and it's
general
allowable and justified.
Yeah.
Our auditors ask that, they'll review that every year, look at the positions, look at the job descriptions, give it the thumbs up, move
Yeah.
on with their payroll testing.
It's actually recommended.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the LGC
I remember
recommends
we
you do
talked
that, yeah.
about that. Okay, that makes
That's kind of come up every year, but
It has.
I think there are a couple other smaller contributors that, I think, Miles, you mentioned this in your summary. One was new employees being hired at a different rate than previous employees, and then professional development and certifications.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, for Parks and Rec, that seems to be the, folks hired at different rates than what was budgeted last year, like placeholders. Some of them are vacant. We've hired somebody who was at a different rate.
And then for the
Two,
park,
actually.
the
Yeah,
parks
Parks and
maintenance, I
Rec.
believe, was the ball fields,
Mhm.
emphasis on the turf and maintenance therein, Miles. I believe you had a
Oh, yeah,
note
what,
on that.
what line item was that? That was Parks and Rec?
No, it'd be streets, park maintenance.
Oh, the park maintenance,
Yeah.
correct. It's going from 150 to 260. Yeah, that's due to, they do currently. And so
Look good.
Yep.
now that they look like that, we
Now we know what
have
it costs.
to, we have to
Going, they
main.
look
Who was
okay.
it said nothing's free?
Yeah, nothing's-
Hey, when we're getting positive Facebook commentary
the
on
kids
that,
appreciate it, I know that much.
Yeah.
it's a big thing right there.
It's worth $250,000.
So, Mark, not to like rush you on this, did you have any other line? Because I want to look at the spreadsheet that they've got, because I've got a few questions.
I had, I think, two more things. Sidewalk improvements, is that building sidewalks or is that just fixing them?
Maintenance, I
Maintenance.
believe.
It's like when we go out and grind a sidewalk or,
Mhm.
okay. The other thing, there's a big jump on the contract service mowing. Is that a, what is that?
Yeah, that contract was rebid last year, and so we had that 250 budget last year. We've got a new contractor. Even the RFP that we put out, we broke down like the classifications of just, some properties need to be mowed and weed-eated and like blown. Some of them need like turf management, and so there's like different classifications for like some of the more high-profile properties.
Us having this conversation.
And so, yeah, the budgets reflects the new bid,
Plus,
the new contractor.
the cemetery. We moved
Mhm.
50,000 from the cemetery
Right.
line item to the one below it.
Correct.
Because their new contractor is also handling the cemetery now, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
So that's 50 of, I mean, that's half of the increase.
Yeah.
okay.
They must be they must be doing a pretty good job, because I haven't heard any
I think they're doing a great job. I
thing
see them
negative.
out all the time.
Because remember, it was kind of getting to a boiling point over the
Yeah.
cemetery
Yeah,
there.
I was
for
like,
No,
a
they're
little
doing a
while.
great job.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
I
out
think
there.
they're doing good, and I think Jonathan, I don't know, he manages that, so.
Just a
Mow-
thumbs
mowing
up will
contractor?
suffice. Okay.
And then one, I don't know if I'm reading this right or not, but on street resurfacing, there's no value for the current year budget?
That's
Is that
correct.
somewhere else?
Yes, it's in capital. And so the reason that we did that is so that your capital outlay number matches cash on your CIP table. So that's
Okay.
usually reserved for PAL bill funding, or funding for street resurfacing. We took that $500,000 and moved that down into capital. And it's broken out
Okay.
into street resurfacing, so street resurfacing and capital projects, you'll see 1.3 million in your street resurfacing. Part of that is the PAL bill funding that would normally be in the streets department, and the rest is cash.
Okay. I think that was it for me.
There were a couple departments where the telephone expenses went up significantly. I know there was an explanation with respect to that in the water and sewer fund, I think, but I wasn't sure what the explanation was, say, for like community development or recreation.
I know that it's not just telephone, it's telephone and internet. I know, Miles, so you may have had a note on that as well.
Right. Yeah, so we, actually through the budget process, Jared was looking at all the line items for telephone with all the department heads, just to see what we've been, the actual payments to date, versus like, what we budgeted last year. And it includes, the Verizon and Spectrum bills, so you got telephone and internet. So I think we're just doing a better job of like allocating what the actual costs are.
Yeah, the big drivers are the Verizon, Spectrum, and then Nextiva, which is our office phones.
And the biggest, the increase for the telephone users too was because we are getting Wi-Fi in the park as well. All of the recreation, so if you see that increase in recreation costs, that's because now we have Wi-Fi at Stowe Park, we have Wi-Fi at Namco, those are the costs.
Would the cameras be lumped into that too, Yvette? Would the cameras be like the newly installed cameras at the, does that all fall into that telephone line item? Okay.
The upfit of the camera projects that we've had since starting last year that we've installed. And having the Wi-Fi too, speaking with Jonathan, they have some like irrigation systems that are coming up in the next fiscal years that require Wi-Fi connectivity too, that can be automated, that we don't have to send staff out there to turn on water systems or light systems, so that the Wi-Fi is already
and this might be a segue into Alex's, what Alex wants to talk about next, but I noticed that looking at the CIP, there's like nothing for Parks and Rec in this year's budget. Is that correct? Because there's a list of, looking at the list, and there are a number in Parks and Rec, and none of them were funded for this upcoming budget year.
Yeah, that's correct.
Hey,
I'll do what I can.
Jared, sorry, I did, before we move on to that, John,
Yeah, that's
sorry.
fine, that's fine.
The parking lot lease line item
Yep.
under streets, does that $145,000 figure, is that sort of a plug for the negotiated rate with the 3 lots that we were told about the renegotiation there?
Yes, that's correct, and I know Miles met with them directly if you wanted to speak to that, Miles.
I was looking at the Parks and Rec.
Oh,
CIP.
I'll pull that.
Are you talking about the,
Under streets,
Parking
the
lot
parking
lease.
lot lease?
Parking lot
Yeah.
leases,
'Cause the you guys negotiated that to like 121, and I guess that's kind of a placeholder at 145 is what we're projecting in the budget.
Yeah, the 121 is what city attorney and I met with the company about. The difference between what you see in the budget and that 121 is the remaining lot right there on Glenway where the old bank teller is. We leased that property and the Norfolk Southern gravel lot as you're going up Main Street to the left across
Okay.
from Glenway where it ties in.
All right, that's all I need.
So none of that is Dwight Frady Field parking in that number?
That's included in the
In the original.
121. in the
Yes, it
121
is included. Dwight Frady Field, Eb Gant gravel lot, and then the Imperial lot behind Elevation Church where Sammy's lives.
So if Dwight Frady ultimately became city property, that we would expect that number to come down? The 121?
Well, that's.
Well, that number, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming there'd be some
Yeah, we-
other number
yeah,
somewhere
expenditures.
for the price of acquiring it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you done?
All right, no other questions on that?
I do have a question. So, can we talk about Project Tundra and the fiscal impact of $2.1 million in fiscal year 26, 27? Because maybe it's good just to discuss at high level, do we keep it in there or where do we go from here? Because from what I understand, it sounds like we may be at a potential stalemate with moving forward. And my concern is if we have this in the budget, because it's so significant, that could be cost reduction or a tax reduction, or it could potentially be, I know everyone's hearts just stopped, or it could be improving other capital outlays that we have or prioritizing other capital projects.
So
Yeah.
that was one of the items that was not included in this draft budget. So
So
the-
2.1 million is not included?
That's correct.
Even though
So-
it's here in the capital and community enhancement
it is,
for
it's
26,
one of the,
27.
on the last slide, it's one of the items that is not, it would be a simple plug. The intent with that would be to cash flow the design and then reimburse ourselves with loan proceeds later. So it would be a hit to fund balance in this coming fiscal
see.
year, and then we would reimburse ourselves with loan proceeds later in the game as that's constructed.
I see.
And then the same thing with the North Belmont Fire Station design.
That's right.
And
We did decide on that, but what do we do with it?
just a little clarification, yeah. I don't think we're at a stalemate. I think it's.
Have we
some-
moved forward from when we
some-
discussed last time?
Yes, but as far as having something to look at, that's not there yet, but my understanding is that it is coming. I haven't heard that it is not.
It's news to me, so maybe a workshop or a closed
I hadn't heard
session on it
anything either
might
way.
be
Yeah.
prudent
Yeah.
for the rest of council to hear an update on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I reached out to the company's 2 representatives that I've been speaking with the entire time, they took what I told them about the MOU, and so they're working with their attorneys at this point, drafting the MOU, and that was right after the retreat when you all made the decision to move forward with Project Tundra. And so, told them what I expected. Needs to be an MOU, so this thing could be not called Project Tundra anymore.
Yeah.
And so they took it upon themselves to state that they were going to draft it for our review. Since that time, I've followed up probably 3 or 4 times, asking, where are we in the MOU process? I need to get it. I'm getting questions by council members, so I'd like to, have an update. And they said that they're still drafting it. So it's still in their
Yeah,
shop.
so I had a meeting about 2 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe I'd have to go back and look exactly when. But same thing, they said they were drafting it, they were gonna give us, once they have it drafted, they would give us a copy to review so that we could make suggestions or have any input on it, and that would be the next steps. That's where we are, so I don't wanna say there's a stalemate, but we're waiting for that MAU to be drafted.
Did they give us a timeline?
Not hard timeline, not in my meeting, no.
They didn't give me a timeline.
Can we give them a deadline? Because we can't just sit here all year anticipating this, because costs are gonna go up for the proposed project from the estimates we received. And that could change materially the decision of what council decides to do with the overall project.
Yeah, I think it would be fair
Yeah.
for me to do a follow-up with at least that and say, is this something we can expect in the next, week? Or is this something that is looking like it's gonna take longer, because we might need to have a different discussion if we do? I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think clarity would be helpful.
Yeah. So remind me again, as far as like the community enhancements, we're cash flowing all of those. What were we doing with City Hall renovations 3.3? Was that to pay in cash and then go to debt service, or?
The City Hall renovation specifically is a debt-funded project.
Okay, that was debt
Yep.
funded.
On the last page of that CIP, there's subtotals down at the bottom for each fiscal year that breaks down cash, debt, grant, and Powell bill. So those are your funding sources for each fiscal year in that column. And that would assume net cash. So going back to the 2.1 million for Project Tundra, yes, we would appropriate fund balance to do the design, but we would be receiving that cash back with loan proceeds at a later date.
Within the same year.
No. So
Then what's driving the cash down to 1.2 versus 2.1?
because it's assuming that we're going to be reimbursed that funding later, so it's net of the reimbursement.
So it is in the budget then, because we're gonna go in debt service half of it.
So the 1.2 does not consider those two items specifically. Everything else in the cash column is totaled up correctly.
Is it in the debt number?
Yes. So for the Project Tundra specifically, you're seeing that in the 27-28.
At 19,500,000.
Yep. Is included in the 27-28 debt total.
And then 26,
Sorry, I'm
27
talking
is-
about the $2.1 million
Right, I was
associated.
just answering
Oh.
Mark's question, but I can update that to include 2.1, and if we want to fund it, I'll have this CIP table tie directly to capital outlay in the budget and fund balance appropriation to fund capital. All three of those will match, because that's the funding source.
So it's not in there right now?
No. Those are the two follow-up items that still could be adjusted with this budget.
What does it do to the budget if we put it in there?
It would increase
Just decrease, well, yeah, what would it do?
between the two, so if you did both the fire station and the design for Project Tundra, it'd be approximately $2.8 million in cash, and we would that would increase your appropriated fund balance by 2.8 million, and it would increase your capital expenditures in the general fund by 2.8 million. So it would be a plug.
Gotcha. But if we don't do it, we've already determined that we'd be okay with spending that out of the general fund, and that's a lot of projects you could potentially knock out, or tax reduction, right? So, just 2 cents there. Do we feel it appropriate as council to put a timeline on this?
For Project Tundra?
Yeah.
Why don't we follow up first and get an idea of where they are?
It
before we
sounds
put
like we've sent 3 follow-ups with the same answer. We'll get you a,
Yeah, I'd prefer to have a follow-up directly with my contact that I met with. And I can come back and in May at our meeting, I'll be happy to update everyone, or I can send out an update before, and maybe we can take action in May.
I think that would be preferable.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we, I like the before because we need to plug in 2.1 to the May meeting budget. It's gonna be balanced either with or without it.
That's
Look, our
fine.
budget's got to get completed.
Yeah, so I'll reach out, I'll get an update, and I'll get with you, Miles, and let you know, then we can act appropriately in May.
Okay.
Any other questions for me before we move into the model per Alex's direction?
All right, I think we're ready for the model.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has there been an update on the 85 widening?
If there was ever a moving target.
All I can say is
Right.
when I go to the MPO meetings, it gets pushed back.
Ah,
But they're
so-
saying May, I think. So,
I guess I'll believe it when I see it.
and there hasn't been much change since the retreat when we looked at this, right?
I think they made a few updates
Oh,
based
okay.
on like the decisions throughout the budget process. I think that's what Chazo's gonna review.
Okay.
I know it. Mayor, do you wanna wait on Alex to come back, or you want Chazo to go ahead and begin?
Go ahead, I think, I mean, I'm sure he'll be right back, so, you can go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you all for having me out. So I wanted to walk through the updated model here. I know we spent a good bit of time with it back in February. Related to the capital side of the equation, not much has changed since what we looked at a couple months back. On the operating budget side, this reflects what was just discussed by Jared and team with regards to operating revenues and operating expenses. Just a preview for you, back in February, we had been assuming anywhere from 3 to 4.5% growth. That's another operating and maintenance expenses. Based on budgetary requests that have come in, some of the salary reallocation back from the water and sewer fund, that shook out to closer to about 9%. So, you know, all else equal, the model doesn't look as great as where we landed in February. That being said, the model still works, but you know, we were showing a little bit healthier fund balance, excuse me, back in February compared to what I'll preview for you here today. But just wanted to give you that data point. kind of variation between what we are projecting versus what's come in with regards to budget requests. So we've got loaded up all of the CIP that has been presented for this year's budget and future budgets. And then with regards to some of these major capital projects, we have the fund balance funding component to it, the debt funding component, and then to the extent any of those capital projects have expenditures that are being paid for out of fund balance we want to recoup with our borrowing later on, we're capturing that reimbursement in the appropriate year when we're issuing debt for that project. So to kind of get to the punchline, let me scroll out here. You might recall that we always vote policy minimum that we want to make sure that we're hitting, which in this projection here, we are meeting that out until fiscal 2033, which is a little bit beyond our typical horizon period. So I would say on a projection basis, we're still hitting our targets. As I mentioned, fund balance is a little bit lower than what we settled on back in February because of that budget variance compared to forecast. But this tells us that, you know, at the current tax rate, at current revenue and expenditure projections, we could still fund all the capital needs through a combination of pay-as-you-go funding and debt funding with some grant funding or third-party funding sprinkled in there, and not, you know, violate any of our policy targets and maintain the same property tax rate. So that's the general takeaway. So kind of good news, but maybe not as great of news as what we were looking at in February. But happy to take questions, happy to take or show you all variations of any assumptions with regards to project amount, timing, funding sources, and then
Ask you to repeat because I was getting situated when
Oh,
you
I'm sorry.
started. But the reason why it's not quite as rosy as we went through back in February is what again?
So we were, back in February, we were basing our fiscal 2027 projections off of your fiscal 26 budget. And so within those projections, we'd assumed that salaries and benefits grew at 4.5%, all other operating expenditures grew at 3%. Translating it now to budget requests that have come in, salaries that have moved back from the utility fund into the general fund, some cost increases like health insurance that weren't fully factored into the model at that time. The overall operating budget is growing at about 9% compared to that 3 to 4.5%. So those are just ongoing expenses that will continue to perpetuate in the model, which is what is showing a lower fund balance, all else equal. But again, still hitting our 30% target over the 5-year forecast period that we'd like to focus on.
And we're still maintaining the funding source for all of the projects that we identified at the retreat. Nothing's changed there.
That's correct. So projects that we had identified as being funded 100% with debt are still 100% debt. Projects that had, you know, a cash outlay, and then a few minor projects, assuming just to be funded purely with fund balance.
I know we just batted this back and forth, but the design for Project Tundra is initially fund balance, and then I think it converts to debt, right?
That's correct.
Is that factored?
Yes. So we're assuming that we would pay for, you know, $2.1 million in this fiscal year out of fund balance. Then fast forward to fiscal year 2028, you're borrowing for the entirety of the project cost, $21.5 or so million. But within that borrowing, we're assuming that you are paying yourselves back the $2.1 million that you spent this fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
So you see a 1-year blip in your fund balance, just purely based on the timing of the cash outlay to fund the design versus the timing of the borrowing. But ultimately, fast forward a year, you're back into the same spot from a fund balance perspective. Then you just repay that torch with the North Fire Station as well.
Okay, yep.
Any other thoughts,
I just have
questions?
maybe a strategic question,
Yeah.
since that's kind of your forte. We have a lot of like installment financing in here. A lot of this seems like stuff that is potentially like bondable. Does any of, like, do you see anything in here where maybe that might make sense?
So all of this is bondable. Now there's pros and cons to putting something like any of these projects on the referendum ballot. So one major pro is a general obligation bond is going to be your lowest cost of borrowing. So if you get authorization from voters to issue general obligation bonds for any of all of these projects, your interest rate would be lower than an installment financing, just because you're pledging your taxing power as security to the ultimate borrowers versus, the ultimate lenders versus pledging the asset. Now the trade-off is if you put it on the ballot and it's a project that you absolutely want to get done, and then voters vote it down, now you're in an awkward position where the voters have said, hey, we don't want this. I don't know, if you ultimately end up funding the project, does it rub voters the wrong way? Maybe, maybe not. But that's one of the main trade-offs. Typically for bond referendum projects, we limit those more so to what we kind of call quality of life. So like, parks and recreations or roads or things of that nature where, one, there isn't necessarily a good, hard, tangible asset that you could pledge to a lender, but also, if voters don't want nice parks or new parks, or they don't want, increased or better quality roads, then that's their decision, and they're telling you yay or nay. But for projects that maybe more so lend themselves to, hey, we really need to get these done, like a fire station, for example. Yes, you could put it on the ballot, but it does run the risk of if it gets voted down, now you're in this awkward in-between position of what do we do now?
Yeah, yeah. I guess that happened in Mount Holly, did it anyway?
Or did it not pass?
No, well, the
First time
bond
it didn't.
failed.
The bond failed.
But then the council just was like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's,
Oh,
thanks
I
for your
didn't know
opinion.
Thanks for your opinion. Why were you thinking of a specific project?
Well, I was
like
just
that?
like, I was just thinking, I was like, who's gonna vote against a fire station? But, to your point.
Oh, there's some of
well,
those.
Yeah.
Well, because you also don't need to raise taxes to do it.
But here's the
right?
deal, the model shows that we're gonna be okay until, when was that, 2030 or something like that?
33.
Or
Early
2033?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's outside the norm at the same tax rate, right?
Yeah, for this level of capital. But
I
it's,
mean-
it's a testament to all the fund
Well,
balances
because what
you've
usually kills a
built up.
bond is like, we need the bond, but we also need more taxes.
But
Whereas
this
you
is saying we don't even have to raise taxes in
Yeah.
order to accomplish our most aggressive projects.
Well, I was just thinking is like, if you can save on the interest expense, mainly.
I
with
see.
the
Yeah,
bond.
'cause we hit our-
But you're gonna be raising taxes to the taxpayer.
Well, you don't
Sure.
have to, you don't have to raise taxes to pay for a bond. It's just that tends to happen.
But
because-
then try explaining that, right?
Wasn't that, I know we're getting into the weeds here, but like in the language on the bond, doesn't it usually say like we're gonna raise your tax by 2 cents or whatever?
It says effectively, we're asking you for $10 million of authorization, as an example. If you approve that, then we could potentially raise your taxes up to 2 cents, whatever the right math is. It does not obligate you to raise taxes by that amount,
Gives you a
but it
max.
just has to be a point of information that voters are able to digest when they're making their decision. And so, if you get the authorization and you issue the debt and the model or your budget says we don't need to raise taxes, absolutely no obligation to do so. The one scenario where you would be obligated to raise taxes is if you ever find yourself in a year where you have insufficient revenue to make debt service payments, then the teeth behind a general obligation bond pledge is you are legally obligated to raise your taxes to a level sufficient to make that payment in the following year. So again, it does not obligate you to do it at all. The model is showing you don't need a tax increase to do it, so you could put it on the ballot and, with a clear conscience say, if you authorize, maybe that helps, the process or helps the likelihood that the bonds get passed.
Yeah.
But again, no
How-
guarantee.
How much do you usually save? Like, what's the, versus doing like an installment financing versus a bond?
So it's, for someone of y'all's credit quality, it'd probably be anywhere from 10 basis points to 25 basis points, so 0.1% to 0.25% on your interest rate.
Okay.
Which, for larger projects, that means pretty meaningful dollars.
Yeah. Okay. I was just chewing it over.
What's the cost to us to put it on the ballot? Is there a cost for a municipality to register a bond?
There's not a cost to put a bond on the ballot, but there's professional costs involved, so hiring a law firm to create the documents to get that
I
in
almost
place.
think the cost would probably outweigh the benefit. And then you're gonna have to go through the hassle
Yeah.
of trying to do, and if it was anything like the transportation bond, and some of our biggest pinch points that you would have thought would have been passed, it was very unsuccessful.
Yeah. Well, I think what killed that was that people didn't want to pay more taxes.
Yeah, but you still have to put the disclosure that we serve the right to raise taxes in the instance that it needs, so convince people that we won't go in and raise taxes
Right, it still
over.
appears that way.
Oh, so you have to declare like the amount of tax rate that you would
Yeah, you have to
potentially
give them
dedicate
a
to-
reasonable estimate as to
Oh, I
what the
see.
property tax rate increase could be if the bonds are passed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to disclose like the existing like, interest rates for,
Yeah, basically
variable bonds
disclose your
and-
underlying assumptions as to how you arrived at that ultimate potential tax rate.
Yeah, on the last bond, if you remember on the ballot, it was like that long.
Yeah.
It was a
just-
nasty disclaimer.
It was huge.
It did not sound well.
It did not. And so I'm sure that didn't help
Yeah.
people feel good about.
Made Charlie vote against it.
I did vote against it. I don't want to give you guys any more money.
Water under the
guys.
bridge. Yeah.
A fun thought
Uh-huh,
exercise.
Well, I think it always makes sense to look at those different avenues that are available.
If you take out Project Tundra, can we just look and see what it does to this projection?
Yep.
Actually, that's probably accurate on off at
Yeah.
this point.
We're hot, we're cold. Yeah, that's like a significant, which
multi-million
obviously
dollars,
we
yeah.
would anticipate, but Joe, again, this is why I'm pushing, like, we need an answer, because we're tying up a lot of potential funds that we could be trying to do in other projects that are very self-serving
Yeah.
to the people.
Yeah, I think it's a fair request. Absolutely.
Yes, in
Was-
one or multiple projects.
Was the design for the city hall renovations, that's already included under, is it under capital projects for this, for 27
yes.
fiscal?
I think the design and the construction of, you talking about City Hall?
Mhm.
Old City Hall? I think both of them are in this fiscal year. Yes, 2027 at 3.3 million.
That's right.
Oh, so that 3.3 there,
Includes, yeah, that's the
that includes
design
design as
plus-
well?
Yeah.
We're just
plus
lumping it all
renovation.
together for that project,
Mhm.
instead of breaking it out? Okay.
How does that work? Once the budget is approved, will you guys make the motions, I guess, to get with health design or whatever the appropriate actions are to get City Hall completed?
We've already asked them for a quote,
Okay.
yeah, for the design portion.
Thanks, Mark.
Alex, any numbers you want to play with?
Probably like half the budget.
It is a big piece.
I'm not against it, I just want clarity.
Clarity,
Yeah.
sure.
Because we can't
Yeah, I
plan
mean,
for
Yeah,
our
it's
city.
an albatross when
You-
you look
you
at
can't
this,
plan.
and so we definitely need to get clarity on what direction we're going.
I guess the only other thing that I'd maybe like throw out to the council is, of course, like, I guess under the appropriate times, Miles, you mentioned, once the budget is approved, we could potentially look down avenues of, and you said we had the workshop, but of visioning of what we do with the Stowe property in downtown,
That's correct.
and what the next steps would be.
Yeah, city attorney and I have already talked through like the next steps as far as like looking at the general statutes and what we need to do next.
Okay.
It'll be a transparent process, and so we're working on that.
That's June? Is that what?
June, I
We've
believe. is
penciled it in on our
June.
spreadsheet. We have a spreadsheet of
Oh.
items that are coming up, so I've plugged it in there, and I'm hoping for it.
I've already written it down.
Yeah. That's why I say it's just a
It's on
spreadsheet right
Alex's
now. We
official
can-
schedule.
yeah.
Turn it off on the machine
So
there.
we can move it around if we need to.
Anyone
That's all I
want
have,
to
Mayor.
look at any other numbers?
I'm good.
Good? I'm good. Yeah?
Nice job on the budget, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Miles, yes, Miles, I just wanted to, you go ahead and I'll.
Yeah, I've got one more item because the final page there said health insurance. That's the one item that we did not discuss, and so I just wanted to give you all like a fair opportunity to hear this. And so we budgeted a 25% increase, but then we recently got the United Healthcare bid that came in at 39.3% increase. And then Blue Cross Blue Shield gave us a 50% increase. And so we're back to the point of the initial discussion that we had with Hub International about what do we do at this point if we got like a 40 to 50% increase. And so we're looking at probably self-funded. Hub International is still in the process of gathering the full quote from Parento. And then once we get that, that's when we plan probably to fund, self-funded in this budget. And we're looking at, and Jared ran some numbers that if we use the numbers that was presented by Hub International, we have to have a fund balance, unassigned fund balance in the tune of $360,000 for water and sewer, $150,000, and then stormwater, $5,000. So we're still in the processes. We're real early right now. We've got the numbers, so we just want to give that to you all too, to say, hey, these numbers are out there now. We've got the actual quotes, and so now we've got to make the decision to be self-funded.
Are all municipalities in a similar situation of just getting destroyed by these increases, by us having to move to this type of, like, because this affects everyone, right? I'm assuming Gastonia, Mount Holly was
Well,
Mount
but
Holly.
as I recall from the presentation, we had
We had
some-
higher claims,
yeah.
yes, but still, if the league is backing out and we're now going into these private insurers, right? I'm assuming they're using this as an opportunity to be pretty high. I mean, have you talked to any of your city manager buddies?
Yeah, Gastonia, they're already self-funded. The other folks were in a similar situation that we were in with the league. And so at the managers' meetings that we attend on a monthly basis, it seems like health insurance is a big ticket for everybody. There's huge increases that are taking place. And so I think it's pretty standard right now that we're all experiencing that kind of increase. And we know for a fact our numbers, what our numbers are, and that's the quote that we got from United.
And then when Hub International was here, we were anticipating what, 25 to 40% increase, what we were guessing it was going to go up. Is that right? Somewhere in there. And then if we went self-funded, we weren't really going to save in year one. It would be like year three, we were going to be looking at like a 13.7% savings or something.
Right.
So we're still hitting, I mean, we're still got the increase regardless of which direction. There's still an increase for this year.
That's
or
correct.
the coming
It's more
fiscal.
stability going forward.
But it's more stability going forward, right? And ultimately gets it to a more manageable.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
said over the next 10 years, if we stuck with Parento, we'd be at a cost savings in the tune of, was it 8 million? Is what I recall seeing, like a cost savings. You can like, fund that back into the fund where every year.
Is it
Plus, I mean, that's already from the draft budget of plugging a 20% or 25% increase in there.
Is it advantageous to the employees, though? I can't remember when we were discussing through all of that. Is this going to cause costs, I guess, to skyrocket?
It was similar to the employee, wasn't it?
I believe, what I recall is that it was, help me out, I think it was a very similar approach to what we would be impacting now. We were talking about how we would, where we would potentially fund additional amounts so that we don't pass that cost to the employees. I think that we hadn't got there yet as far as like running numbers, as far as like, if it, we don't want to pass a 40% increase over to the employees, so can we pass a 5% increase to them? Can we pass a 10%? And what's
That's right, we asked for the tiers to see.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think it gives us much more flexibility because we're the ones paying the bills.
Right.
So,
No, I agree, but you've got to offset. You can't just pass a massive burden to the employees because I think we asked for, now I'm recalling, we asked for the tiered because I think we do it standard to an extent and we want to see it done by certain pay grades where it's more relatable to, let's say if you're making less, you're not absorbing a major burden, right, versus what someone at the top of the scale would be. That's the only way I think you can do it in this scheme.
Yeah, I think that's one option is the tier. Another option is, like we're saying, this, how much can we afford to take a certain amount from employees and just have the city pay for it.
Okay.
So
But
it's
that's in, or that's potentially a risk to what we're approving?
Say that again.
So in the budget, we're talking about these line items. When would this go into effect, I guess? Like, is it in the numbers we've just reviewed as far as the insurance and everything?
25% is, right?
25% increase is, and the number that I just rattled off, that
40 to
360.
50%.
Yeah, that's the increase to be self-funded. We'd have to add another $360,000 in the general fund on top of what's already budgeted at the $1,000 amount that we would have to probably take from unassigned fund balance to plug that in for year one.
Gotcha.
So if it's, of course, this will come up before council, but it appears self-funded may be the more favorable way to go. Will we be, do you know roughly when we'll be hearing from Hub International again?
We've asked them to get the number as quickly as possible so that we can plug it in for the May meeting. And Human Resources Director has reached out to them. I don't know where they stand as far as like giving us the exact figure, but we have, a week and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then once we have that number, we can analyze further about a tier program like Alex mentioned, and figure out different options on how we fund it and how we place it down to the employees.
Doesn't have to be that. I just mitigate as much of the risk as possible because that's substantial, right?
Yeah, you don't want to pass on all that cost.
No.
The self-funded will cost a little bit more than the renewal in the short term.
Right.
Understood.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Well, are there any other questions for Jared? All right, I just wanted to say real quick how impressed I am into it. The attempt to educate us all as to everything that happens in the background with the numbers. It's important, obviously, that we understand what's going on, but it's important that we have people that we can lean on that know what's going on. So my hat's off, Miles. Thank you. Jared, thank you. All the department heads that have put a lot of time in getting this together in a format that we can look at and make it a decision based on. I appreciate all the time and effort put into it. I know that's no small feat.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think this might be the quickest one. We're getting faster and faster each year.
Well, we'll see.
But
See in May.
it's paid a
I guess
tribute
we'll see.
to
Yeah.
y'all's
It's the staff,
efficiencies
yeah.
and everything
Not
you
me,
guys
no.
are doing. I honestly can't pick through this anymore.
Mr.
Well, we'll
Mayor,
see. Yes, sir.
If I may, just a point of discretion, I know we don't normally do other business at work sessions, but I'm going to be out at the May regular meeting. I didn't want to miss this opportunity to commend
Yeah.
some of our staff. I got to do my ride-along with the police the other night till the wee hours of Saturday morning, and things got a little slow about 5, so we decided to knock off so they can spend the next hour doing all that paperwork you were talking about earlier.
I got you
So,
beat still.
11 hours.
So what's the current record?
I think it was like 12. We'd have to ask Corky. They got it somewhere. But I got home around 6-something a.m. in
Yeah.
the morning.
But I just, I know we all appreciate the job that you guys do and having that inside bird's eye view with just seeing the level of professionalism, skill, restraint, and compassion that you, the guys and gals in our police force have was really tremendous. Appreciate that opportunity. And also to Parks and Rec and to Public Works. I know we've all gotten a lot of positive comments lately about the condition of our fields and how good the lights look. And Jason, I've gotten a lot of feedback on you recently from our athletic directors and school staff about how you've reached out and working with them and getting more engagement from the kids in our schools, and we really appreciate that. I think that's a welcome addition. And then lastly, as you said, just many thanks to Miles and staff for the job you all did with the budget. Very well done. Yep.
Well, Jason, we will miss you in May. However, anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Or do you want to hold your other business for May?
I'll hold
We
it.
can do that. All right. All right.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
Project
Jason.
Tundra.
There will be an update, post haste. So that will complete our agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Charlie, all in favor? All right, we'll stand adjourned.